guys, and you're listening to Fire Your Boss Fridays, your podcast that explores ideas on how to steal your life back, fire your boss, and live a life full of purpose. I'm super thrilled to introduce our special guest, Chad Wittfeldt. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, sir.
All right, my man. He's an extraordinary individual with a passion for motorcycles, from what I can see, snowmobiles, real estate at some point, and he is a master at crypto trading, the way I understand it. So, Chad, say hi to the listeners and tell us who should stick around and why should they stick around for what you're about to share.
Absolutely, my man. Absolutely. So here's the thing. I grew up in the Midwest with the most Midwest lifestyle you could ever imagine, meaning living outside of Michigan. Everyone you know and their brother and their family ended up going to college for 4, 5, 6 years and working and making 60, 70 grand at GM or Ford. That was the life I was destined to do. And I was told that what I have today is unachievable and impossible. And now I have the life that they told me I could never have based on all of the various experiences and journeys I've built along the way, whether that be investing in apartment buildings, having a massive Ethereum mining warehouse at one point, or trading crypto full time. So it's been an eclectic journey that's come a long way, and it's been a heck of a ride.
Well, cool, man. Fire Your Boss Fridays listeners, I have a few questions for Chad. I'm just wondering, thank you for the feedback there. That is a big, big story, I can tell already. Like, that doesn't happen overnight. So let's dive right in. So you're in, like, let's talk about business right away. And you have apartment buildings too? Like, what came first? Crypto,
Yeah.
apartment buildings? Like, bring us back to the beginning here.
Yeah, let's go all the way back to the beginning. So, like I said, I grew up super lower middle class in Michigan, run-of-the-mill story, right? The average Michigan Midwest story. And I got my first job at 15 years old, bussing tables at one of the more affluent country clubs in Michigan. And this is really what opened my world and opened my doors to a higher net worth, a higher caliber individual. And of course, they all either owned something or ran something or both, right? They either owned real estate, businesses, funds, various things like that. And that opened really my mind to a lot of this stuff. So, working at this country club, getting around more affluent people, the first business I ever started was because I heard a guy at the bar at the country club complaining about his wife putting him in the doghouse for not remodeling his front yard quick enough, right? He's still working on it. It's still not done. Okay, no problem, man. What's your address? Let me come take a look at that. I got a couple guys. I think we could take care of that for you. And here we go. There's my first business,
Did he
landscaping.
take credit for your work or what? Like, oh, sweetie, I got all my work done. No, just
Yeah,
kidding.
exactly, right? So my very first business was calling up 4 or 5 buddies and saying, hey, meet me at this address at 6 a.m. Bring every single gardening tool in your folks' garage, right? So I just, at a young age, just started looking for opportunity, looking for problems to be solved, and looking to make a buck out of it, right? So that was business number one. Did that for quite a few years. And for a kid, working full-time at this country club and, working on the weekends, doing my landscaping gig, I was doing pretty good for, between 18 and 21. Put myself through college, needed a business I could take with me, right? So then anybody who had a laptop, a cell phone, an iPad, an iPod, any electronic, I would give them cash for it. Didn't care what it was, I'd buy it. And I'd go arbitrage it and sell it on eBay. Right? There's my 6-figure business number 2, right? And so the story keeps going and going, and I realized I needed to start looking at larger opportunity vehicles, got worked in with a group of guys. We did a handful of apartment deals together. Then I really started to look in the cash flow game because, I'm getting quarterly distribution checks from these apartments that we did. And that's what ultimately led me to starting my first Ethereum mining warehouse. Did that for about a year and a half. And that opened a lot of doors on the blockchain for me. So, it's been an interesting ride for sure.
So I have a crypto question for you, man. We're talking about cost versus value. I mean, that's kind of what's, I look at it like, there was one point where I tried to figure out like, okay, so what really dictates the value of a crypto in how it's usable, right? Like its usability is one. And then just like sneakers or an old coin, even though the coin's worth $1, right? Or like it's a silver dollar or something like that, it could be worth $100 based on perception, right?
Sure.
So How does that play into like the value of crypto from your mind, man? Tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It depends on what component you're looking at because you also have to add in scarcity as well. Scarcity, and then stack that with supply and demand, and things can get pretty exponentially out of hand when you add in that speculation of perspection, right?
Yeah.
And primarily because, if we go and look at Bitcoin, for example, right? Bitcoin has been formally deemed as a commodity by the SEC primarily because there is no governing body leading the Bitcoin blockchain. Meaning, there's not some guy behind the scenes saying, "Hey, we're going to burn, $100 million of supply of Bitcoin." Whereas many other cryptocurrency platforms do have that. Many other cryptocurrency coins do have a leading developer team running the ship, and so that's not really a commodity. They're starting to go after them as equities now.
Well,
so
I heard XRP the same way. Excuse me.
Yep, exactly. So you have a very, very dynamic market, and I feel as if the marketplace in crypto as an entirety is overran by emotion, right? Overran by emotion.
Right now, currently. That wasn't the intention.
Yeah, exactly, right? It wasn't the intention. However, a lot of people got rich, and a lot of people saw that and wanted in, right? And so it's overran by emotion without logic, right? And that's really ultimately where you have to be really careful and understand how to walk.
How do you look at it? Emotion or logic? I mean,
I look at it with logic. I'm not emotional at all. I don't care
about
one
it.
bit.
Not one
I'll
bit.
give you no, not at all, man. I don't care.
You don't have a Bitcoin tattoo somewhere?
No,
The big B,
absolutely
the big B
not.
with the lines through it.
Absolutely not.
Lower
No.
back somewhere. Let's see. Let me see.
No, I mean, I'll give you a quick example of that. So when I was mining Ethereum, I sold all of my hardware and closed my mining operation down at the very, very top of the market. And I was public about it because when somebody's liquidating, over $500,000 of mining equipment, buyers in the market, you got to post it somewhere. You got to find people to buy it, right? And not that many people
have to be open and vocal about it, yeah.
Yeah, right? You have to sell it, right? So I had to tell people, hey, this stuff's for sale. And obviously people ask why, because majority of people were hobbyists. I treated it like a business, right? And so the biggest delta there is the amount of people who called me mean, nasty names for closing out my operation. And they go back and look 6 months later, and I can guarantee you they wouldn't tell me that now because I sold the absolute top.
So if I bought into, like you had sold everything. You have no Ethereum right now, or do you?
No, I still hold Ethereum. I sold all my hardware.
Gotcha. Okay, so with Ethereum right now, you mined a lot of it, but if someone was to purchase Ethereum, where does the cash go?
Where does the cash go? The cash will go to whoever is on the other side of the transaction, right? There's equal and opposite buyers and sellers, right? So whoever sold you that Ethereum on the open market has the cash.
So essentially all the cash is held by its holders.
Sellers. Yeah.
But either side of it, right? So
exactly.
There's no like special Ethereum bank holding all the capital that gets dispersed to everyone if everyone was to sell. It essentially goes to that particular individual, right?
In a transaction sense, yes, right now. Yep. You can get, it depends on how advanced and how deep you want to go. And we can obviously do a part 2. But now that Ethereum has moved from proof of work to proof of stake, in order to power a node, it's 32 ETH, right? To power your own mining node. And that's what's going to be validating blockchain transactions, right? So in essence, Ethereum is putting parameters in place to lock up Ethereum liquidity and have it committed to a node network.
Right, so they're working towards that.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, but right now it's not that way. So that's why I asked that question. So for entrepreneurs, just because that's what we hyper focus on here, and we're talking about like stealing your life back, firing your boss, and living a life full of purpose. Now that we have a kind of an understanding of you, what you do, and what you're really specializing in right now. Let's say someone wanted to jump on board right now. It's going to be a different story than the one you had, right? as far as like an entrepreneur saying, okay, well, I want to get into trading is like maybe a side hustle or a full-time gig. Walk someone through that. How do you prepare? So that's what we call stealing your life back. That's how you prepare to launch into firing your boss. You can't just fire your boss like one of those Walmart videos where they're up on the cashier. Screw you guys. I quit. And then some profanity, right? And then they get all these views. That's not what we're saying to people on this podcast. What we're saying is steal your life back means prepare yourself. Take all the things back that are going to get you ready to launch and like take this leap. So talk to our listeners, if you could, Chad, about what should someone do to prepare, and get their life in order to like really do this. And I mean really do it. We're talking about that mean coach that tells you all the stuff you don't want to hear. Like if I had to tell you this, like, sell all your dirt bikes, Chad, this is the only way. Like you'd be, well, I don't know. But so be that person for our listeners. Could you do that?
Yeah.
Just the blank slate, best, fastest, most efficient way to be successful. How do you start? How do you get in it?
Yeah, for sure. I think first and foremost is knowing thyself, right? Understanding if this is a mechanism that's even going to be good for you in the first place. Because the reality is,
dive into that, man.
Yeah, for sure. The reality is, majority of people are not mentally wired for the emotions that come with risking capital to make more capital, right? Most people don't understand what it looks like to put up 10 grand in risk on a trade to make 100, right? Because when that 10 grand starts whittling down to 3 because you hit your stop loss or you lost this trade or whatever that risk management looks like for that person, they're not mentally prepared to take on those psychological emotions, right? So if you're a person with low EQ and you get emotional, you get overly excited, or maybe you've had some type of gambling experience in the past that got out of hand, it might not be
so
the
that's something to watch for. Okay.
Yeah, like know
that's
yourself.
Some good advice.
Right? You have to be super unemotional.
Okay.
And so I think that's number one, understanding if it's a good mechanism for you in the first place or not. If you feel like it is, then it becomes a place of understanding your risk, right? And that it also comes with that mental model. A lot of people look at crypto and trading in general as, let me get this started and I'm going to have a new Lambo next week. Not the case.
Could happen, but not the case generally.
Exactly.
We're past the Dogecoin days. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, those things can happen, but oftentimes the principles that lead there are over risk.
They are. They're leveraged hard. That's why it's such a big upside, right? And obviously that's not the game you play specifically. So if someone was to come to you for help or advice, that you're saying like, you could do that, and it might happen, but we play a different game. Is that what I'm hearing? Precisely,
man. We treat this like a business. We're very, very strict on our inputs and outputs. We're very, very strict on our methodology. Every single trade, every single component that we do is well documented, well risked, well thought out. We're not just randomly, willy-nilly clicking buttons because some random guy buy Shiba today.
There's a lot of buttons on the screen as far as I know. Looking at your screens, I'm like, look at all them buttons. They look all shiny. Like, should I push this one? Move this lever up here. Push this over here. It can be pretty complex. So tell someone about that. Like once you're in, like, is there a learning curve there too?
Yeah, 100%. It's a skill set, right? It's a skill set. And I think oftentimes this industry in general, unfortunately, whether it's crypto trading or just in general, has this really, really get-rich-quick mentality around it. And the reality is it does take time to learn. It does take time to master. And it's like with anything in life. Your inputs are directly correlated to your outputs. And oftentimes when people want to come and cut corners and cut corners and cut corners, they wonder why they don't get the result that they're looking for in the first place.
Right. Okay. Putting in the time. Yeah. Okay. I think it was Steve Jobs once said, you have to be a little bit crazy. And I think he said just a massive amount of passion for what you do in these types of scenarios, and even being an entrepreneur, because it's going to beat you down. Like you have to be so willing to almost die for your thing. Otherwise, it's not going to work for you. You are going to chicken out. You're going to back down.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're going to run as soon as things get tough. And now, are you saying you need some pretty thick skin for this space? Is that what I'm hearing?
You certainly can. I mean, you certainly should, primarily because like losses are part of the game. Like you can be a successful trader in anything with a 6-to-4 win ratio, meaning you lose 6 for every 4 that you win out of 10 and still be profitable. Okay. So you have to be okay with taking losses. Like a lot of people will judge their sense of self-worth on a loss, whereas with us and what we do, losses happen. It's part of the statistical math and the statistical equation. However, when you have proper risk to reward ratio, it's part of the game and you can survive them. But if you tie the mental outcome to those losses, you take them personally, and it can ruin your sense of confidence when executing. You have to be almost robotic-like with this stuff. And
gotcha.
I just can't.
Is that something you can be taught? I mean, just like entrepreneurship, we ask this question all the time. One of them is, are you just born an entrepreneur? Is that just who you are, essentially? And then you just don't know it yet. Like for me, when I first started shoveling driveways or mowing the lawn or even just working for my parents, right? As soon as I found out I could get money and milk my parents for cash, I was like, well, I'm going to clean the garage. I'm doing the dishes, but essentially that runs dry. But the idea would be is that something that can be taught as far as that resilience, or do you feel, is there books that you've read that have given you that strength or clarity, or you were just born with it? And if you don't feel like you have that, just like you said about gambling, this isn't for you. So we're really just trying to identify, is this for you, not for you? And if it is, Chad can help you. If not, then maybe we want to look elsewhere, right? Sure.
Yeah, for me personally, my own experience in my mental model has allowed me to feel like you can find the silver lining in the creation of anything, right? Because when I first started trading when I was 18, 19 years old, and I spent my first 3 years extremely
crypto specific, or
I was trading
just
equities, equity markets.
Okay.
And for the first 2-3 years, I was extremely unprofitable. I treated it. I had no trading plan. I had no risk management. I was clicking buttons just to click buttons. And ultimately, that led me to lose about 20 grand in my first 3 years, right? And I had to take a step back and realize, hey, it wasn't the trading strategy. It wasn't the time of day. It wasn't the instrument. It was me all along, right? And so, I had to go through that myself at a young age to create that EQ, and create that discipline of success with it. And so I personally feel like you can, even if you don't have it now, you should hopefully at least be aware of that. Now, I didn't have somebody there to tell me what was really going on with it, so I had to learn the hard way.
Right. Well, and so is that something that you teach now based on through your experience? I mean, how do you help people? Do you just have a channel somewhere? Because I do see posts from you, but I don't see any that are specifically crypto or real estate. It's you have a lot of great advice. You talk a lot about your partner is is a topic that you're kind of hot on right now. She must be offering you a lot of support because you put out a lot of content showing how she's been a big part of your success, and you're doing shout outs on that level. Right. So is there somewhere people can find you specifically?
Yeah, for sure.
Or to get advice?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a pretty eclectic guy. I do a lot, have a lot of fun, and I'm not a hard pitch salesy kind of guy. I just kind of live my life and let people attract to it or not, either way. But if the crypto stuff interests you, we do have a Facebook group. It's completely free to join. It's called Crypto Renegades. Search it on Facebook, and that's where you'll see endless information from us on this topic.
Do you have to know how to do wheelies on a dirt bike to get in? What's the initiation?
Nothing. Just click join. There's nothing.
Nothing. Just join. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
So.
All right, brother. Well, is there something else you wanted to tap into more than the crypto? Is there anything else you got going on in your life that could help entrepreneurs in taking that leap, or maybe living a life full of purpose? You're at the point now where you might be giving back to your community a little bit, right? So how are you giving back? Is this Facebook group maybe one of those places? And what are you doing, outside of just business that, is giving you purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that question. I think for me, that's just one of my mechanisms that I personally enjoy and have found a lot of success with. However, I'm very perspicaciously aware that it's not going to be the same mechanism for everyone. And so for me, my piece of advice is find a solid opportunity vehicle that is going to support the lifestyle that you want. Meaning,
can I repeat that, brother? Find
find an opportunity vehicle that's going to support the type of lifestyle that you want.
Oh, that is beautiful, man. Right? Because we're not looking for that. There's a million ways to make money. A million
ways. Yeah.
Find the one that fits the lifestyle you want, and that's what you've done.
Exactly.
Essentially, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Exactly. And the other thing too to stack on top of that is not only find it, but then focus on it. Like I see, like there's a million ways to make money, and everybody wants it in 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Mm-hmm. And just because they don't see it, then they hop to another one. Oh, well, that didn't work out, so they hop to another one. Oh, that didn't work out. Like it takes time, you know. Like this.
Well, everything.
Like there's a reason
sure
most entrepreneurs don't find success. There's a reason most people are working jobs. It's because it's not for everybody. But if you can focus on something with the discipline enough to wake up and do the thing every single day for years, you eventually will be successful with it.
Amen.
So
people think of time like if it takes longer, it's harder. What if you were just going for a walk for 10,000 miles? Now when someone says you go for a walk, it's like, oh, I could go for a walk. That's easy. Well, do it for 10,000 miles. How is 10,000 miles harder? It's just longer. It's still just as easy to walk. But I think, would you say that that's a good way to look at it? People just think of it as like, it's harder because it's longer. That's not true. It could be easy the whole way.
Yep.
It could just be a casual walk the whole time. But you're assuming that it's, because it's longer, it's harder.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So just stick it out, man. And especially if you found that thing, like you said, that aligns with your lifestyle. And that's when we do a course on remote bookkeeping, which is one of the things that gave us the freedom to travel the world, right? And so we created a course so other people can do that, right?
Yeah.
Work anywhere in the world doing bookkeeping for small businesses. That fueled almost everything that we did. Like we traveled to Costa Rica, Thailand, all that. But it aligned with the lifestyle we wanted. So I can totally relate to what you're saying there. And then, finding purpose does what does riding dirt bikes do for you? Is this like a recharge or an escape or both?
I don't ever feel like I have to escape anything because my life is absolutely incredible, designed by the way I built it, right? So there's no reason to escape it. It's just the freedom. Like I grew up knowing, watching YouTube videos of guys like riding dirt bikes in the most amazing places in the world, riding snowmobiles. And I just remember thinking to myself, man, I would love to do that. I would love to do that.
That is sweet.
And then, then I have another, whoever in this ear, you have to go get this job. You're not going to be able to do that kind of stuff every day. You're not going to be able to do this. Okay, watch. Like now I can go do whatever I want, whenever I want. And I think that's ultimately like my driven passion and my reason why I started this all in the first place, why I took risks that other people didn't. Well, so I could have the life that not everybody gets to have. And having brand new dirt bikes and snowmobiles and riding them any day of the week that I want is part of that.
Right. You said by design. Okay, so this means you have a perception that you're somewhat in control of like what you've created. Was there a book that you read? I mean, there's a lot of literature that I can think of right now that, I've dove into this space quite a bit on really constructing everything from the manifest, from the mind. So it first starts in the mind, and to get it out of the mind, you put it on paper, and then you create a blueprint. Then the blueprint's just like a house. If you have a good blueprint, you don't even have to build your dream. Actually, you can hire people to build your dream, right? But the blueprint has to be there. But it's part of the manifest. You can't keep it stuck in your mind. You have to get it out, and then you got to create the design, right? And like you said, by design, you feel like you created this blueprint in a sense, right? Can you share a little bit more about that? Like the steps, give us some real, something real that we can maybe take away today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing that comes to mind is I had this boss, and I remember I got stuck in traffic, and I was like 10 minutes late. I was like, sorry, man, I was stuck in the traffic. This guy blocked the lane. He goes, I don't care. It's your fault. It's your fault. Right?
That's it.
I don't care about the traffic. It's your fault. You know how to get to work. You've been coming here for a year. If you know the traffic's going to back up, leave 10 minutes early. I don't care. It's your fault. right? And that really stuck with me for a very, very long time. And then reading the Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, like every single thing is my fault, whether or not it actually is or not.
Well, think
right?
about the word fault, right? Does that mean responsibility almost?
Responsibility.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm not in good shape. It's my fault. Like, it's all my fault all the time. It's all my responsibility. And I think once you adopt that mental model and that mindset, it's when you take that responsibility, you have no one to blame but yourself. Who am I going to go blame? Am I going to go blame my mom and dad? Absolutely not. Am I going to go blame my 5th grade teacher? Absolutely not. You know, and I just
You could
feel
throw
like
more money at it. People think that solves problems, right?
Yeah.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get in shape. I'm gonna give the gym like 10 grand and like I'll have a 6-pack because I'm gonna throw money at the gym. I'm gonna go to the best gym. It's like, hold on, brother. You still need to do the work, my friend. So
Yeah, 100%. That's
that is well said, dude. I love that feedback. That is awesome. It is. But now that we can, let's say our listeners adopt that. Okay. So now how do we take action? Right. So now we're like, okay, we are responsible. So what do I do next? Right. Do I start journaling? How do I get how do I find me? Right. And how I put me into the world, right? This vision of who you want, by design. How do we start that design?
Yeah, find out where you feel inadequate. Find out where you feel inadequate first, because for me, like this whole thing of being a high value man, right? You can have the most money in the world, but you're completely out of shape and your health is horrible, right? And vice versa. You can be the most jacked guy in the room, but you're broke living in your mama's basement, right? Or you can have those two components, but your relationship at home with your lady is horrible. It's toxic. Right? You have to have it all. You have to have the wealth, the fitness, the faith, and the relationships.
Amen.
And so find out where you're most inadequate first and work on that first.
Take responsibility for that. Be at fault for that.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing? Okay, cool.
Exactly, because it's your fault. Like, if you're out of shape, it's your fault. If you're broke, it's your fault. If your relationship with your missus is horrible, it's your fault. 100%.
Right.
And so ultimately, like, I've had to go through iterations of that myself to where I am today. And I think the most important component to that is understanding it comes in seasons, right? One season you might be working on your finances, and you might have to let your health and lifestyle habits go by the wayside a little bit, right? You can't balance it all. This whole balance, it takes time to actually truly build a fulfilled and balanced life. It doesn't happen out the gates. And so you're going to go through seasons and iterations of working towards inadequacy numbered 1, 2, 3, etc. But if you don't know they're there, or if you play the blame game and the victim game for other people, then it's not your fault, and you have no reason to do the hard work.
Right.
Because when you get up in the morning and you're faced to go do something you don't want to do, you're not going to go do it if you don't understand that it's your fault that you're there in the first place.
Yeah, that's good, man. So what about things that come and go? Listen, as you know, money comes and goes. Businesses come and go. Relationships come and go. Like you said, it's this one seasons, you called it, right? So you could call it seasons. You could say it comes and goes. It woos and ways. It does all these things, right? So what do you think about people who, like, let's say you have a successful business, you buy a big house, you have all the toys, you're all set, everything's good, right? And then that starts to go away, and then people are afraid to, like, let it go, and it actually makes things worse because they don't like to. No one wants to go back to reset.
Right.
But would you agree? This is the question. Would you agree that, like, in that scenario where things aren't going good, maybe it's not even your fault, maybe the market, right? Like we say about fault, but I got caught in the real estate space when the market just turned. Like, honestly, I don't think I actually had anything to do with that specific, but I took responsibility for it, right? And then I made better for myself. But there's an element of that, like, do you think individuals then should just accept, the sooner you accept the reality of something, regroup, rebalance maybe, and then reshoot again from that point, right? Like, so that means you had a 6-bedroom house, boom, we're living in a 3-bedroom house next month. We're selling off all the toys, and we got a new plan to get back to blank, blank, blank. Do you feel like, give me your feedback on that?
Yeah, no, I love that. I think tying the outcome to materialistic things can be a really detrimental place. One of the most successful entrepreneurs I know, I went to his house the other day. It's a $20 million house in Paradise Valley. And it's just him and his lady that lives there in like this 18-bedroom house, right? It's
You just want to giggle. You're like, what?
Yeah.
You got a basketball hoop in your living room? What's going on?
Oh,
brother?
it's literally it's everything. It's the most over-the-top extra thing in the world. However, if you go out to lunch with this guy and sit down, he's going to pull up in a 2016 pickup truck wearing khakis and his work polo, no Rolex, no nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he obviously doesn't care that much. He's parking
Right.
the cash in an asset, and it just
Right.
so happens to be a really nice asset.
Sure.
But before that, when he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, he was living in a one-bedroom apartment that he had for employees to come and train at his facility.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? So point being, like when you tie the materialistic thing to the outcome, you can be in a really detrimental place. I personally like to tie the feeling and the experiences to the outcome.
Right.
How do I feel with my partner? How do I feel when I'm with her? How do I feel when I go do these things? Right? It's not that I have the best of the best brand new dirt bike every year, right? It's that I can go ride my dirt bike. It's not that those components I think will go a long way. And ultimately, like striving towards that, living that truly happy, fulfilled life, you don't need to create it and curate it with expensive materialistic things. And if you're not tied to them, you can let them go if the season and the tides change.
Right. Just let it go. It's not part of the journey. It's part of it, but it's not the journey. Like
Exactly.
let them come and go. Like, oh, this is cool. Let it go. Just pretend like you rent everything.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you feel this way, like, and you feel like, oh, if I don't have this big house, then people aren't going to think I'm successful. You got a big problem. And I think that both of you and I share that same view. We believe that's a big part of stealing your life back. A lot of people are caught up in like, I know you had a little bit different story, but most people, would you agree, have like this story where like they're 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. By the time they're 27, they're like, I actually didn't even have a plan. And now I'm here and I have a mortgage, an $80,000 car, and 2 kids. There was no design. I didn't design this. Like they might have thought it, but they were taking someone else's advice more than likely, and now they're stuck.
Yeah. Yep.
And so for
100%.
people to take that leap, we believe, and you might agree, and I don't know, I'd love to get your feedback on this, that we believe here that to take that leap, that might mean changing the whole plan, which means the other plan is a liability because it does not align with the new plan by design, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you have to go back to zero, start over, because if you don't, you're just dragging all this crap with you. You don't need it.
My favorite analogy for that is you have two different boats, right? One is the Carnival Cruise yacht ship, and one is a little skipper dinghy.
Okay.
Which one is going to turn quicker? Which one is going to do a 180-degree turn and go the opposite way quicker?
If need be, right? In danger, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the dinghy.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's lean, it's small.
Right.
Right. It doesn't have pivotable mass. Right. And so I live extremely lean, and I'm just halfway through this move in Scottsdale right now from Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I sold off 2 trucks, a car, 2 dirt bikes, a motorcycle. Like I sold off all this stuff. Why? Because I didn't want to bring it with me. I didn't care.
You're basically living what we're talking about right now. Like it doesn't serve the move, and we're moving now. This is a reality.
Yeah.
That doesn't serve my move. Let's just get rid of it. This is what'll serve us now, and we'll get another dirt bike. Come on, people.
Yeah.
You got to have more faith in yourselves. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I kept my favorite one.
Oh,
so.
of course you did. Right. Well, yeah. Amen. But see, you have assets and liabilities. That's the way I look at them. Even if I know it's a complex way to look at life, and it's just this black and white. But if I have a goal or a dream or something that I've created, so first I identify goal, dream, whatever it is, or place. If the thing I'm looking at or the thing I have in front of me doesn't help me get there, I have zero idea why I even have it. Like
100%, man. 100%. That same guy I was telling you about, his company's $300 million company. He said the same thing. Is the number one thing I see entrepreneurs fail with is living outside their means too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Their business starts making 200, 300 grand. They go buy the house, the boat, the car, all that. And it takes away, not only does it take away from capital to reinvest into the distributions of scale for their business, but it also takes them out of an abundance financial mindset.
Right? It does, yep.
How can you go invest $100,000 into your company this year if you got 150, hanging over your head in payments and mortgages and debts for the year, right? You're not operating from the same mindset.
Like,
Yep.
like on a motorcycle ride, perfect example. It's like we're going to go on a hike or on a motorcycle ride. We're just going to be like a 1 or 2 mile ride. All right, cool. So what do I need? Well, why don't we get like 18 gallons of gas? We're going to bring some snacks, and like, you don't need any of that. Like, it's going to hinder the whole process. The ride's going to suck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For another analogy, It's like, that's not going to be a good ride. Why don't you want to have a good, efficient, lean ride? Like, I got enough gas, I got enough water, I got enough food. We're going. Let's do it, right?
100%, man. 100%.
Cool.
The more and it accumulates over time, and the more of it you accumulate, and especially if you tie emotional attachment to it, the harder it'll become to fire that boss.
Amen, right? Man, this has turned into a really inspiring episode. Hope you listeners are enjoying Chad's feedback, man. He has got it spot on. If you were to ask me, I'd have to say, first off, with the name Chad, of course, he's off to a good start. But second off, his belief really, really aligns with what I call like being the most dangerous and fearless entrepreneur. Why? Because I do not live by the measure of my physical success. He believes in himself. He believes in the success of whatever he can create, and it's by design. So he has a little bit of control of his destiny. So if you're looking to get that back, keep listening, guys. Stay on here with us. So Fire Your Boss Fridays. This is how we're going to give it to you, and one way or another, we're going to get you there, and we're going to hopefully do it as fast as possible. So remember to stay tuned to our next episode where we continue to inspire and empower you on your journey to stealing your life back, firing your boss, and living a life full of purpose. Thanks, Chad, for joining us. Until next time, keep chasing your dreams, people.